Everybody have a chair? Everybody comfortable? It's good to see you this evening. This is a very important occasion for this Capitol and for the people here. I'm Frank Brawner. I'm chair of the Oregon State Capitol Foundation. I welcome all of you, each of you, to the Oregon State Capitol tonight. The Foundation's mission is to create a living history to enhance the beauty and dignity of this Capitol and to foster cultural and education opportunities in the Capitol. We believe that this building is a treasure to be safeguarded. You can help us do that by becoming a Capitol friend. Just walk over to that desk over there, and she'll be happy to sign you up so you can be a part of our gang trying to make sure that we enhance the beauty of this Capitol. It's a twofer, a real bargain. And you get a tax deduction too, so actually it's a threefer. You can't beat that. One of the parts of Oregon's Capitol history is the people who occupy this building, such as governors. One of the Foundation's assigned roles is to help acquire portraits of governors to add to the Capitol History Collection and its art collection. That's what this event is all about. We would like to thank all the staff who have helped us so much, most of all, Debbie Lowry, Oregon State Capitol Foundation staffer without equal. Debbie, where are you? Many thanks to all of the donors who made this evening possible. That's 154 who made this evening possible, and we appreciate each of your contribution. They're listed in the souvenir program. And I'd like to thank and turn this over in a moment to Jane Cease, who chaired the effort on behalf of the Foundation, but finally a personal note on my behalf. Thanks to Governor John for his leadership and service to our state of Oregon. This evening would not have occurred without the tireless efforts of Jane Cease and the numerous phone calls. We got to do this. We got to do that. Thanks, Jane. You run a tight ship. Thank you for all of your successful effort to bring us together this evening. Jane Cease.
Thank you, Frank. And I also would like to thank all of the donors. And I would also like to thank the Capitol staff. I don't even know everybody's names, but they are truly some of the most wonderful people in the world, because all you have to do is ask and it appears. And not only do I want to thank the donors, but there are a lot of people here who also helped twist arms for donors. And so you know who you are. Thank you very, very much for doing that too. Sometimes parts of our past come together in a serendipitous place in the present. And I served in the legislature with my friend John Kitzhaber. And then, because of my very much earlier degree in art history, I've been buying Hank Pander's paintings since 1969. And today, those two people who are special in my life are here together for a celebration of Oregon's Capitol history. And before we hear from them, we'd like to have a look at the painting. So if I could ask my two helpers over here to help get this drape off. First, I want to call on Hank, who is my favorite Dutch Oregon artist. Ron Cease and I have bought our first painting from him in 1969. Now we have 4 paintings and 2 watercolors and an ink drawing in our house, and I have run out of wall space. Hank is an internationally recognized and collected artist, and his art hangs in the world-renowned Rijksmuseum in his home city of Amsterdam, along with people like Rembrandt. And it also, a lot of his art hangs in places all over Oregon. To mention a few, Oregon State University, the Portland Art Museum, the Forestry Building in Tillamook, Timberline Lodge, the Police Academy in Salem, and at the other end of this building in the McCall portrait outside of the House Chambers. And so now we'd like to hear from Hank.
Well, thank you very much. It's just really astounding, all these people. First, I really want to thank Governor Kitzhaber for actually suffering through all these sittings. As you may see in this painting there, he sits with his legs crossed. And while I was painting him, and he sat so quietly and so still that I just really worked very hard, and there were few sittings and there were very few far between. And one moment I thought, Governor's been sitting here for a whole hour without moving his leg, must be. I said, Governor, isn't it time for a break? Yeah, I think so. And so he got up and his whole leg had gone to sleep. So it was sort of hopping through my studio. So it's a great deal of pain going on. I also would like to, of course, thank Jane. Jane has had more work on this painting and all the organization around it that I have had. I just had a really good time painting it while Jane had to do all this administration and making phone calls from the moment I started it till today. So thank you very much, Jane. And Jane has been, as she mentioned, one of my very best and very early supporters, especially when I just came to this country and times were really extremely difficult. She started purchasing works of mine out of exhibitions and would pay me like $50 a month for until the painting had been paid off. And then she'd buy a next painting and continue paying me $50 a month for like a number of years. And in the late 60s, that was actually the rent. So, yeah, now I actually own my house. So, and of course, thirdly, I would really like to thank the Oregon Capital Foundation for having the trust and confidence of me having to do a second governor painting in true bipartisan fashion here. And I will have to mention the McCall painting in context of this new piece because one can't help making comparisons. For myself, in the sense, I thought the McCall painting was one of the finest paintings I had done, and so in a way I had to sort of compete with myself doing this piece. However, the McCall painting was done 30 years ago, or close to that, and Governor McCall was at the time extremely ill, and he was also at that time become kind of a mythic figure in the history of Oregon, and I painted him as a sort of heroic, sort of Newtonian figure as he was measuring the forces of nature and the tides and the forces of the sun and the moon and the width of the beach and all that. And so it became the sort of painting of formality and somewhat of grandeur. Then when I became aware of Governor Kitzhaber, I saw first a photograph of him in a painting, and I thought, boy, he would just make a really wonderful painting. Just the way he looked. And I also really liked the fact that he was a physician, a healer, an emergency physician, no less. And the fact that that would be, to me, in my mind, always a great metaphor for a leader or somebody who take care of a state in a way. Also, his deep affection for the state of Oregon, I thought was really very wonderful, and that paralleled also Governor Kitzhaber with Governor McCall, and also my own, as being an immigrant from the Netherlands, the Oregon landscape to me has been the most astounding place I'd ever seen, and I've painted a great deal throughout the state of Oregon, and I've developed a really deep love and affection and for the Oregon landscape and all that, what that entails. So I thought it was important to introduce these aspects of him being a doctor and him being an element of the Oregon landscape. To get to know Governor Kitzhaber a little bit better, I went to a number of his speeches and listened to that and found him a very animated speaker. And at first I even thought about painting him as a speaker in front of one of his projections, sort of animated. And but then when I did a drawing of that, I realized it started to look very much like the McCall painting, who's also sort of gesturing down the beach. So I thought, no, we don't want to do that. And also meeting him, I found him more, personable and relaxed and casual. And I thought to get that aspect of him, his personality, and him being very much in the middle of his life, his vitality, that element into the painting. And so that's how I developed it. I also structurally made the painting different to make him seated rather than standing. Also give it a kind of sense of interior as somebody who's inside places also. I dropped the landscape down, so you look down on the landscape, which would lift the figure up to a great height and give more importance to the figure. I also was aware that the space here is somewhat on the dark side, so I lit it out. I made it so the painting would actually sort of light out the space itself by knowing the color of the marble of the room. So. In that sense, that's sort of how I went about the painting, and we had about, 7 or 8 sittings and completed it. The frame for the painting was done by Cosmos Editions, very fine framers in Portland who hand-built the piece for it. Thank you very much.
The Oregon State Capitol Foundation now presents this painting to the Oregon Capitol for its historic collection. President Courtney and Speaker Hunt, this grand work of art now comes to you for your stewardship.
If you'd like to make remarks or maybe say thank you, that would be nice.
This event does not make me feel young. I sometimes feel like I first came here before any of these pictures were on the wall. I've always wanted someone to paint me and hang me on a wall. I can't even get him to take a picture. I think I need to explain to you why the speaker and I have been even asked here today. We control the Capitol. It's the Oregon legislature that oversees the state capitol, and that is why it's done in this way. And so we've been given the rare and special honor to accept the portrait of Oregon's 35th governor, the Honorable John Albert Kitzhaber. My loyal staff found out his middle name, so I love middle names. It is particularly fitting that the picture will hang there, because while the good governor began over there, he spent 12 years in the Oregon State Senate, the last 8 of which he was the president of the Oregon Senate. So it is a sentimental moment for me to not only accept the portrait, but also have the opportunity to honor a former state senator, because there is a special relationship with state senators, as well as a former presiding officer. I also had the honor to be in the Senate when he was the governor. A great person, a great doctor, and a high and special honor for me to now accept on behalf of the state legislature, particularly the state Senate, the portrait of John Albert Kitzhaber. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you the Honorable Dave Hunt, who is the Speaker of all the House of Representatives here in the state of Oregon.
Well, I feel very young here today. I want to ask, there are so many current and former legislators here. If you could just all wave your hand where you are, all the current and former legislators who are all spread throughout the room. I think that's a real testament to Governor Kitzhaber, because I didn't have the privilege of serving with Governor Kitzhaber. I came in just as he was leaving office into the House. But I think the statement of all these current legislators who served with him and former ones as well is a real testament to your leadership and your vision for our state. I was, as the portrait was unveiled, I was struck by the fact that you were, and the story was told about the portrait sitting. The fact that you were sitting patiently, I think, was a habit you learned as governor, patiently waiting for the legislature to send you a decent bill. It's a long 8 years of waiting. One experience I did have with Governor Kitzhaber when I was just considering running, House Democrats do an event called Emerging Leaders Day every session. And Governor Kitzhaber came and spoke. This is late in the 2001 session. I was 33 years old, I think, and just thinking about maybe I might run. And you know, you read all the media reports about how he was sick and tired of the legislature, justifiably, and it was the end of a long session, and he came in and he just wowed us. Inspiring, visionary, had a plan, had things that he was interested in accomplishing, but also calling us to a greater level of service, knowing he would never serve with any of us because he was getting ready to be term limited. But I remember that vividly. I think you had a whole room of folks in that room and in a lot of rooms before then and since then who've been called to public service and have been called to a higher level of service since then. And I think this portrait will be a great reminder for all of us of that continuing commitment of yours to public service and your continuing vision for Oregon, short-term and long-term. So on behalf of my colleagues in the House, it's my privilege to join President Courtney in accepting this portrait and thanking all those donors and the foundation who've come together to make this day possible. It's always a good day in the Capitol when something is made in Oregon, like this portrait is, and when people step up to write checks to their state voluntarily without objection. We got 2 for 2 today, and so thank you all. We gratefully accept your generosity.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and Mr. President. And now, John Kitzhaber, one of my favorite governors. John and I were elected to the Oregon House of Representatives in 1978, which actually was on the same day that the fellow in the painting on my left was elected governor. And my first vote in the Senate in 1985 was to elect him as president. And then, of course, he was governor of Oregon from 1995 to 2003. John gets, as I believe he should, high marks for his integrity and for his persistent and excellent work to give us a better healthcare system, and for his environmental work, particularly on water issues, which is one reason you see a river in the painting. And I would like to ask Governor Kitzhaber, please, to top off this little program for us.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you very, very much. I want to acknowledge Governor Kulongoski, who is hiding behind the pillar back there. Just wanted to thank you very much for coming. You're in the barrel next, my friend. And also, I want to thank, special thanks to my dear friend Bill Markham. We served in adjoining districts from Douglas County way back in 1978, and Bill said he wouldn't miss the long-awaited public hanging of John Kitzhaber, and he drove all the way up to witness this. I have to tell you, this is a very humbling experience, and I feel just a little bit awkward, but very grateful. I have certainly walked down these aisles numerous times over the years and seen these paintings and recognized at some level that former governors are supposed to have their portraits painted, but it was always somewhat of an abstraction to me and not something I ever connected with myself, which is probably why it took Jane and Hank 6 years to run me to ground and do the painting, and I'm very grateful they did that, although, and this is some advice to Governor Kulongoski, if I'd done it earlier, there would have been more hair and it wouldn't have been a little less white. I do want to thank Jane Cease, who's been just a dear friend and political ally for years and years. She actually helped me remove a growth from Joyce Cohen's arm in my office when I was Senate President. And then we sent her back to the Business Committee. Jane went above and beyond the call of duty organizing this thing, and all my friends who served on this massive portrait committee. Thank all of you. And I particularly want to thank Hank Pender. I have never really had this kind of an experience before. It's pretty remarkable to have your painting done by the man who did this remarkable portrait of Governor McCall down at the other end of the Capitol. And as he said, I got to watch this. He put a mirror up, and so I could actually watch the process. The palsy in my left leg went away after about a month and a half. But artists actually do this. And he would spread out this array of colors, and I could watch him applying those to the canvas, and it was truly magical. The skill of this man to transform a blank piece of canvas into an amazing picture. So I'm honored to have had the chance to not just be in it, but also to witness the artist at work. I think the only thing that could probably make this day better is if my dear parents were still alive to share it. I know that they would really have loved to have been here to see this, and their influence is probably more than any other people influenced my decision to participate in public service, although my dad, who is somewhat of an art critic himself, I think would question whether this portrait is either art or culture and has added anything of value to the Capitol. But he was always a harsh critic. I do plan to bring my son Logan down to see this, and I'm very interested to see what he thinks looking up here and says when he sees his dad hanging on the wall. Finally, I just want to thank all the people who helped underwrite this enterprise. I got a copy of the donation list, and it was very moving to me. The number of people from the past and present and across party lines who stepped up and helped produce this, and it means a great deal to me. And to see all of you here today. I have spent over half of my adult life in this building. I do have to correct President Courtney that actually Maribel Cadmus and Frankie Bell run the Capitol, but just did then, still do. I remember leaving the chamber over there and not coming down this way, but heading out to the front doors, and I remember being fairly radioactive when I left office in 2003, and seeing all these amazing names on this contribution list made me realize that there are enough friends there to last a lifetime, and I'm blessed to have all you here, and I thank you very, very, very much. Again, it's just a wonderful honor to be here, and I'm very honored to have had the privilege to serve the people of Oregon and also to be up here in company with all these wonderful leaders who've made our great state what it is today. Thank you again very, very much.